Élise Tastet is the founder of the website Tastet, which in normal times chronicles restaurant openings and industry news in Quebec. She's not a restaurant critic per se. She and her employees don't write negative things about restaurants. Instead, they review them according to specific criteria. So you could say she's more of a food lover with an entrepreneurial spirit and a huge following of Quebecers who appreciate her high-quality photography and accurate descriptions of what each restaurant does well. But when restaurants shut down in March for COVID and new places stopped opening and cool food events basically disappeared for the indefinite future, and what I wouldn't give to never hear that word indefinite again, she did something that not a lot of other food websites and media I know did. She kept producing a lot of original content. So what I want to know is how. I also want to chat about how she's grown her website into a thriving business, because in preparing for this interview, I basically realized that Tastet is, as a business, everything that my app, Fork That, hasn't been. She has a number of employees and support from entrepreneurial organizations, including Femessor and Fondation Montreal Inc., and throughout the pandemic, she's even grown her readership. That might have something to do with the fact that there aren't a lot of alternative food media sources in Montreal and Quebec right now, but it still sets her apart. So here's Élise, source of business wisdom, COVID inspiration, and much needed positivity. Hi, Élise. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I want to start first with talking about with your website and kind of what you've done through COVID. How has your coverage changed? What happened at the beginning? Were you freaking out? Were you thinking, what should I do with this? Or was it all just common sense to you to create wonderful content?
No, we were freaking out. I started a new program on March 16th, where I was supposed to go back to school full time, and they announced on March 15 or 16 that all restaurants were closing. We've learned that all our clients were postponing the campaigns. And so I was starting a new full-time program. I had to put all my employees on temporary leave. And then we had to rethink in like 24 hours. Okay, all restaurants are closing. What are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? How are we going to keep our audience? How are we going to keep being relevant? Wow. So it was a challenge, yes.
Okay, so what were your first steps in that? That's a lot to think about, obviously.
Yes. Well, our first steps were to try to not freak out and just take a little step back and think, okay, we are a guide of going out and discovering restaurants, cafes, and bars, but we also have very strong values in the company. We've always had. So we took a step back and we position ourselves with those values. So what is important for us is the promotion of local business. So local business, restaurant, cafes, and bars, but also products, also the people behind those products. So we made the subject larger than we would usually, and then also like culture, everything that has to do with the environment, about food in general, about Montreal in general. So we went back to those values. We covered subjects about that, and the readership stayed. So we were very happy. It was a lot of work, and we did not plan it, but at the end, it was okay.
I like that you said it was a lot of work, and you didn't say we were lucky, because I don't think you were lucky. I think you took a very intelligent and methodical path and decisions, obviously, in this process. So I'd like to cheers you to that. I think you have a drink handy, which we should talk about too. I think you deserve it.
Thank you.
And what are you drinking today, by the way?
I'm drinking a lemonade mate libre.
Aha, okay.
I have a friend who started a company and they do mate. He's from Montreal, working also very hard, entrepreneur. So and it's like having a coffee, but with no coffee.
That's another great business that I'd love to support. That's actually what I really like about your site right now. When I did go to it after COVID started happening, I like the profiles. I like the focus on the local restaurants, and not even just the restaurants. It wasn't about the restaurants. It was about the restaurateurs. It was about the people, and you really humanized it, which I definitely appreciated. And I find it really cool that you're still doing interesting content. Like today, you have up boxes and takeout for Father's Day.
Yes.
And that's not an easy thing to just throw together. That takes a lot of research. I know that you put a lot of effort into that. So I want to actually then talk about, you work then through monetization through ads usually, or sponsors, but not the
Yes.
restaurants, right? So can you tell
No.
me how that works exactly?
We never take money from restaurants, and we never will. It's part of our business model. So we make money with four things. So advertising with banners and posts, with clients like events, food suppliers, and tourism companies. And we also make money with affiliated marketing. So we did a contract with DoorDash. We signed with OpenTable and Libro, which is a Quebec company for online reservation for restaurants that are reopening. And we
Finally,
also,
yay!
finally. We also have food tours that are on pause for COVID. Hopefully we can make them again. And we have an online store where we sell books of restaurants we talk about on the website.
Okay. So how much of that did you lose when COVID happened? Obviously the tours, like you said, but the advertisers.
Tours we definitely lost. For the advertisement, we were quite lucky that everything was on pause. So they paused it for like a month, and for a month we didn't know what was going to happen, but then it kept going, and it went also differently because we covered different kind of subjects than we would usually do. So it opened some doors that we didn't thought before COVID.
Okay. And so I know, like with my app, like I said in the intro, my app Fork That, I feel like it's not the biggest success in the world. It's basically a Tinder for restaurants, in that you're swiping through places around you and it helps you discover. But we went big, we went international. And I think what's so smart for you is that you kept it so local. You grew a local following here in Montreal and Quebec. You had really high quality photos, and then those kinds of partnerships with DoorDash and with Libro, right? That's the name of it.
Yeah.
With Libro, the local one. Those are not easy to set up. I know that. You make it sound so simple, and I just feel like I don't know if you're oversimplifying it because it's in retrospect, but how hard has it been to make those kinds of inroads in your business? Because it seems like you're doing so well, and I'm really, really happy for you.
Well, first of all, you did great too. And I mean, life happens in weird ways sometimes. This year we've had a lot of coverage where people are like, oh, you're so successful with your business, but people also have to not forget that we started this website in 2014. And so for 2 years, it was a passion project. Then it became a small business under my name. So for 2 years, and then it became an Inc. But it's only been in the 2 last years that I've had the chance to have a team working with me to fulfill a mission and be driven by it. Before, it was like me in my living room just trying to make it happen. So I'm glad I make it sound easy, but it was not easy. I remember dreaming of having partnerships like SAQ or even les fromages d'ici. And now that these clients are the clients of ours, I'm extremely proud, and I never take it for granted. We've worked a lot to get better, be better, offer a better quality product, and hopefully we'll keep getting better. So that's the fun part. But yeah, no, a lot of hard work.
Not easy. How do you even learn to, sell ads, to create these sponsorships? Like that's not about reviewing restaurants. You came into this as a food loving person. Now you're doing a million other things. Like that's something I really struggle with when I'm trying to create sponsorships, to know how much you're worth, how much to negotiate, how to negotiate. How did you learn that?
In French it says sur le tas.
Okay.
Like tried and I failed sometimes. And then I'm a big believer that mistakes are very important. I think that making mistakes are important. You learn from them and you grow from them. Obviously, like you have to, in a certain field of keeping always your values and everything, but I think they are important. For sponsorship, we at the beginning, I mean, my first client had such a good deal and it was not a good price, but I was also trying to figure out, I mean, doing of course market research on what is going on, who are your competitors, how much they're selling for, then how are you different and how can you differentiate yourself from them. And then the bigger you grow, the more you can get better clients and partnerships. But it's not easy and it's an ongoing process. And the more we grow, we change also.
Okay, I feel like you should be a business mentor for a lot of these organizations that you're now working with, like FEMESOR and Fondation Montreal Inc. and Futurepreneur. These are really helpful. If listeners don't and viewers don't know these organizations, they help a lot of young entrepreneurs and startups with money, with advice, with resources. And so what I think is really cool right now, you said you're going back to school. Are you in school now? Has it started?
Yes, I'm in school every day almost, and I've been in school since almost now 3 months, day for day. It's been very intense, but I'm learning a lot. We're doing an incubator in artificial intelligence, so I'm doing it with my cousin, a little bit more family in the business. He is a data analyst and a coder, so he's building an API for we're going to create a recommendation engine to make sure that our readers get the best recommendation for local places as possible.
Okay, so it like tailors your suggestions based on what you've liked before. Is that the
what
idea?
You've liked, what's your personal profile, where you are physically. So there's a bunch of different information that we're gathering for the user profile, and then we're matching it with the restaurant, cafe, or bar profile.
Okay, so how many criteria are there then? Like this must be a lot of variables because everybody does not like the same kinds of restaurants, I guess.
Yes, we have 250 criteria for each restaurant that we built with my dad, who's a food critic. And for the reader, we have approximately 20 criteria for them to match them.
Okay, because I was going to ask, I know I'm totally geeking out on the tech side here, but this is fascinating to me because I want to know about the onboarding for users and when you're the sign on, because I mean, they're not going to answer 250 questions when they're developing their profile.
No, all the 250 criteria, they're done in-house, so they are on the restaurant side. And then for the taste, when the user builds his profile, he can always respond or not to the question. And we have about 20 questions on taste, like do you drink alcohol, are you a vegetarian, like these type of information, so we can better recommend. But also with the training of the agent the person likes or wants to try, we'll be able to create the machine learning and make it smarter. I'm not the one who's coding that, I have to be honest. It's my wonderful CTO, Sophia Shendi, and my cousin Olivier. So they are doing a great job at that with the help of Next AI, the incubator we are in.
Okay. Yeah. So I know, AI, everybody's talking about AI now and people think, okay, this is really way out there and so exotic, and it's not that complicated in that it's an algorithm that you set up and it's smart in the sense that it can give suggestions. It's not smart in the sense that it's a curator and like an expert like yourself, for instance. You were telling me before that when you started this site, it was really easy to write because everybody that read you liked the same kind of food as you. So how does that work with this new integration with AI?
Well, what we've realized is that when I started, as you said, everybody liked the same thing as I did. So when we said, oh, this address is amazing, people were like, yay, totally agree, exactly what I wanted. But then
those are like your mom and all your best friends that just love you and you can't do anything wrong.
That's it. And then the more we grew the restaurant base, the more we grew our readership. Some people were like, oh yeah, it was good, but it was not exactly what I wanted. Like I wanted a more calm place. I wanted a service that was faster, all these things. So the criteria grid that we created for the restaurants is to be able to match that need for the people who go on the website. So it's being built, but the goal is that the restaurants are the good addresses that are on the website, they're all evaluated on the same criteria. So supposedly with that criteria, they are good addresses for what they have to offer. So sometimes people will be, oh, that was not good, but it was evaluated the same way. So it is a good address, but it's maybe not a good address for you. Yeah. So that is the difference that we're trying to make. And we want people to be satisfied. We were trying to be the more honest possible, but we will go a step further so that we try that people are never unsatisfied when going out.
Yeah. So a question I always got from these kind of startup organizations is always like, how are you going to scale? How are you going to make tons and tons of money out of this? And so I guess like what comes to mind for me for this is that you increase your usership. And so you have more people on the site, you have more volume, you have more traffic, you create more partnerships. Are there other kinds of monetization coming forward in this? Like through the restaurant reservations, I guess?
We might. With COVID, is for sure. We've had to also rethink that. We wanted to scale in like a million cities very rapidly. With that COVID, I think we want to make sure that we're really optimized in Quebec and that we get revenues from a lot of different fields. And then when that is really solid and good, then we'll export it in different cities. But yes, the goal would be to have different partnership, more people, more international clients. But at the same time, unfortunately or fortunately, my goal with this business was never to make a ton of money. I would be rich if that was that, maybe. It was not the case. It was really to build something that I believed in. So I try to always work towards that goal, to always be proud of my work and believe in what we're doing. And I think that if we do solidify everything and make sure that we're everywhere in Quebec, and because we have a Quebec site, but like we need more addresses around Sherbrooke, around Charlevoix, Tadoussac, like all these places. There's so many good addresses, so we want to make sure that we're really well here, and then we'll export the model. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does to me. I hope it makes sense to viewers, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking that's exactly what I should have done with my app. And the other big thing that I really should have done is get really high quality photos, because I know that's a huge expense. You pay for those. You pay for freelance photos. You're not going to, so your options when you start this, at least that in my case, either you take the photos yourself. So you're going around to every place trying to take a beautiful photo, and then you're paying for the food in most places unless you talk to the restaurants. But then you're working with the restaurants, and then it kind of feels a little odd because it feels like you're buying them or they're buying you, and it's a little weird. So it's better if you can just send in a photographer, but then you're paying those fees. And to get that amount of money to start is hard, but it's a huge investment in beautiful photography, which you have, which I think is super important. So how did you make that choice originally, and are you happy with it?
I'm extremely happy with the pictures that we have on the website. Again, it's zero credit to me. Alison Slattery, our photographer, 2-foot photographer on Instagram, she came and talked to me 4 years ago now. And she was a wedding photographer, and she always dreamed of being a food photographer. She had zero experience, but she was like, oh, I'm dreaming of working with you. Like, do you think we could do it? And I had no money at the time. And I was like, we can go take pictures, but I can't pay you, unfortunately. But she was like, yeah, but I need to build my portfolio. So we started together, and we had so much fun. I loved working with her. I loved everything about her. And when I started making money, she was the first one I started to pay. So and then we're shooting tomorrow restaurants and continue to work with her. I love her very much, and I'm very happy we're still working together.
How does it work with the restaurants then? How do you set up a shoot, and what's the deal?
We usually try the restaurant first, and then if the criteria, like if it goes well in our criteria grid and the restaurant works with what we recommend, then we will schedule a shoot. and then go take pictures, and then we write about it. Yeah, she's doing great. She's shooting the new Mandy's book.
Right.
She,
A lot of salads. Lucky her.
yeah, really good.
I wish I could afford those salads. But actually, let's talk about a restaurant, because I obviously you're very connected to the restaurant industry. You know a lot of restaurant owners personally because you're there doing all these shoots all the time and doing these interviews and in-depth conversations. What do you think is going to happen in Montreal and in Quebec in the next couple of weeks? I mean, restaurants are opening. By the time this podcast airs, restaurants will be allowed to open, whether or not they will be open. What do you think?
I think people are really excited to reopen. I think clients are very excited to go back. I think for sure there's the health. Health is so important, and obviously it always comes first. So we have to be careful. But with the 2 meters apart, I think it's really hard for restaurants to reopen and be friendly and everything.
Yeah.
By the time this podcast air, maybe it will be to 1 meter. 1 meter is more feasible. We don't have any idea for that. I know that some restaurants are opening, but I would say that at least 50% that we've talked to said they would not open yet, either because they're too small or it just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of cost to reopening a restaurant too, with the servers, the cooks, and everything. With the new sanitary laws also, they have to be careful. So I guess we'll see. In the short term, I don't know what it will look like. In the medium term, I really hope that maybe we'll not go back 100% normal, but I think that people will want to go out. We're social humans. We need people. We need to go out. And I think that Quebec people are also a lot of bon vivants, like they like to enjoy life. So
Yeah.
I hope it will go back to a certain normality.
I hope they can enjoy going to a restaurant again, because like you said, if you have, plexiglass and you have face shields and you have masks everywhere and you have to constantly wash your hands and you're 2 meters apart from your friend and you're yelling and, and they're not even going to be able to play music at that rate. And maybe food comes out slower because they're still doing their takeout operation. Is it going to be as enjoyable? And then you're worried about the health of the people working there as well. And there are so many restaurants in Montreal that have already closed, which is really sad to see. I keep seeing on Facebook places that have permanently closed. So I'm optimistic like you that things will work out and there'll be a new normal that makes financial sense for a lot of restaurants and individuals. But it's tricky, huh?
It is tricky. And there's it's like the cultural world. Theaters, opera, it's gonna be special, but yeah. I do believe that it's gonna go back at some point. How or when, I'm not sure and I can't know, but I have the confidence with people writing to us every single day saying that they can't wait to go back.
Right.
I have j'ai foi, like we say in French. I believe that it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, I think you're in a good position to cover restaurants when they are open again, because you already only write positive things. So many people that I've talked to in food and who usually write about restaurants, if they're critics, for example, they're like, how do I even do that job anymore? Because nobody wants to kick someone when they're down. Like, why would you write a bad thing about a restaurant's quality when they're just struggling at the moment? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But actually, so before we move on from that thought, I just wanted to check with you, because I don't know if there's a difference between francophones and anglophones in their kind of fear of going back to restaurants and their excitement in going back to restaurants, because I know it's been covered differently in French language media and English language media. So I'm just wondering if you have any kind of perspective on, do you think there'll be more francophones rushing back to restaurants or more francophone kitchens reopening, or vice versa with anglophones?
I haven't seen a trend in the anglophone versus francophone. I've seen a trend in bigger restaurants opening faster than smaller restaurants because of the 2 meter. Of course, our readership is more francophone than anglophone, so I know for a fact that our readers are excited to go back to restaurants. I do believe that some of the more anglophone restaurants, their clientele is really excited to go back. I just saw this week that Arthur's posted that they won't be reopening soon, and they're like, "We're so sorry," and people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to go back, can't wait to go back." So
brunches are so good. I'm not
yeah,
even a huge brunch fan, but they're known for it.
yeah, they're quite good. But so I think that Anglophones and Francophones will be excited to go back, but I think it will take time, and the smaller the restaurants, the longer it's going to take.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where are you excited to go back to?
Oof, so many places.
Yeah. Do you have a list?
Yes.
I have a list, I want to just work through my list when things open.
Yeah. I'm really excited there's many restaurants that opened during the crisis, the pandemic, that I was not able to try. So I want to try these ones. And also I want to try my classics, and I'm really excited to see. In fact, what I miss the most about restaurants is also the people. Like, I'm so excited to see people, like see them, and like, how are you? And that's what I miss the most, the hospitality of it.
Yeah, well, I hope that aspect comes back. Can you name a couple places so I can put up their links on the show notes?
Yes, well, I'm excited to go back to L'Express for sure.
Of course.
I'm excited to go back to Boxerman, to Alma, to Bar Henrietta, Buvette Chisman, Majestic. I'm excited to go back to Café Parvis. I'm excited to go to Mont Lapin, Montreal Plaza. I'm excited to go to even Dépanneur Le Pickup to have a sandwich. Like, I'm excited to do all of these things.
Okay, you sound like a natural wine drinker, because all of those places are big into natural wine. Is that true?
Yes, I love wine.
Okay.
My boyfriend works in wine, and I drink delicious wine. I'm very lucky.
Oh, you are. Okay, next time we'll have a wine podcast when you're not too exhausted. You must be exhausted from all the school you're doing, from all the hustling for your site. How do you have energy right now?
I do a lot of sports. So yes, I'm very tired, and I have a very busy schedule, but I try to keep an hour a day to do sports, and I think it's good for the brain, keeps you focused, also makes you realize that things that you think are going to make the end of the world, they're not. Just sweat a little bit, and then everything's fine again.
Okay.
I feel like.
Yeah, I hope so. I think a lot of people are worried that Montreal as a city will lose its kind of credibility or its kind of renown for being a restaurant capital if a lot of places either shut down or change, or just kind of the joie de vivre, the bon vivant feeling here changes. Do you think that's a concern if the economics just don't make sense for so many places to stay open? What's going to happen?
I think it will depend on the time, in the sense that if they change the laws and the 1 meter is like in July at some point,
right,
or at least this summer, I think it will be okay. I think if also they keep helping businesses with rents and everything, it will for sure make a big difference. But I don't know if you've seen parks in Montreal, but I mean, I'm not that worried for the joie de vivre of Montrealers.
People are having fun. It's true. They're having hopefully responsible fun.
Yes, hopefully. Very important.
Yep. So I want to ask you just a couple quick questions. I won't even call it a restaurant, a lightning round, because my lightning rounds have been so pathetic in past episodes. But what's your comfort food?
My comfort food is probably Italian food.
Yeah. Do you have one place or one dish?
Pasta, delicious. I like the more traditional, like Moccione, Luciano Trattoria. When I want fancy Italian, I go to Le Serpent or Elena.
Right. And do you have a particular kind of pasta? You like big noodles? Do you like stuffed noodles? Do you like
I like all
sauces?
Of them.
What's everything?
Yes. I love Italian food.
You seem very easy to satisfy with that. That's a good one. Because some people are just so into one particular thing. It has to be fresh. It has to be a tomato sauce. It has to be whatever, but no.
No, it's just not too cooked. Okay. That's it.
That's good to know. Do you have a favorite patio in Montreal?
I have lots of them. For exterior patio, I really like the Bar Henrietta one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
also like the Taverne Atlantique who open in Milex. They have like a full view 360. Indoor, Jatoba has a really
Oh,
beautiful
yeah.
indoor
Kind of greenhouse
patio.
space.
Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah, lots of them. We have a list of the best patio. I'll send it to you.
That would be great. You've probably done thousands of interviews with restaurant owners yourself, but I'm curious, as an interviewer, what's the best interview you ever did?
I was like starstruck by many chefs. I'm a big chef fan. Like I love the like ingenuity of chefs with food and like how they're creative and how they are so passionate and they make something with food that like you taste it and it's like magic. For me, that's
Yes,
amazing.
I get it.
So when I met really famous chef, I think I was really like, wow, like this is amazing. But the best interviews I've had were with Hubert Marsoleil, the owner of Filet, Club Chasse, Pêche, and Serpent, and Mélanie Blanchette, who owns Bouillon Bilk and Cadet. I think it's because these two restaurateurs are really focused about like teams and service and how like hospitality is like a human business. And I think that what has made these interviews the most interesting ones. The most fun one was though with David Macmillan, when we did a video with him where it's like walk in the shoes of David Macmillan, and we had funny questions for him, and he was like full of knowledge, full of surprise. So that was the most surprising and fun. But I think the ones I've learned the most were with Mélanie and Hubert.
Okay, what were some of the funny questions with David Macmillan? I'm curious.
I'll send you the video, but it was like, I don't know, like, what do you bring to a party? And he was like, good conversation. And I put perfume on, and I was like, okay, I would not have thought that. Like, so it was, and he had like, you know, for everything related to books and with cooks and with art, he's a very sophisticated, curious man, and he's really well, he talks well. So it was really interesting.
Can I steal some of those questions for future lightning rounds?
Absolutely, you can check the video out. It was really funny. I did it with our videast. We work with Bruno Florin, and it's quite cool. I like it.
Okay, perfect. Good to know. What else did I need to know? Oh, I needed to know the future of tastet. You're talking about AI. You're talking about growing the site. What else is going to be coming up soon and in the further future?
Soon. Well, hopefully we'll keep getting better. I hope so. You're going to have viewers, readers profiles that are going to appear very soon. We'll also have restaurants profile where all the qualitative information is going to be made in-house by our team, but all the quantitative information of restaurants will be available for restaurants themselves. And hopefully we'll be able to recommend new places. Hopefully we'll also grow our media in different subjects, more related to food and the bigger picture, and not only restaurant, cafes and bars, but the people behind it, all the local place to discover, all the local people to discover. So hopefully that's where we're going. And then hopefully we will also launch in different city when this COVID thing ends or not ends, or evolve.
Yeah, whatever it turns
yeah,
into.
Whatever. Yeah.
Toronto, is that next?
Toronto,
Maybe?
yeah, we have, Toronto, Vancouver, we have the United States, France, Spain, Italy.
Okay.
We have lots of places, but I just don't want to do it too fast and miss it.
Well, I hope you slowly and sustainably take over the world. That would be wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I know it's turning into dinner time now, and we just have a few more minutes left on our recording time. So I wanted to know what you've been cooking a lot of in COVID.
what I've been cooking a lot. I've been cooking a lot of it's not cooking, in fact. I've been eating a lot of seafood.
Okay.
I've been craving seafood with the lobster season. We've been
Mm.
eating a lot of lobster. The crab season, we've been eating a lot of crab. I met a producer of oysters, so we've been eating a lot of oysters, everything shrimp related. So we've been doing really like seafood parties. It's
Okay.
been delicious.
That sounds brilliant. And I'm also very hungry now. So I'm just going to say thank you for your time. And
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. And best of luck with your website and everything you're doing right now.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you for thinking of me. And hopefully we will talk again about other subjects.
I hope so.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to the 5 à 7 podcast. I'm Amie Watson. I'll be back next week with another episode with Alexandra Gill, who is the restaurant reviewer for the Globe and Mail based in Vancouver. And that'll be really, really interesting conversation. I'm excited for that because Vancouver seems to be a little bit ahead of Montreal and Toronto in terms of reopening restaurants. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on out west as kind of a harbinger of what's to come out east. If you want to find more information on everywhere we mentioned in this episode, you can find it in the show notes, wherever you got this podcast, whether that's the video version on iTunes or on Vimeo, or the audio version on Spotify or Stitcher. You can also find both on my blog, multiculturosity.com. And have a great week. Thanks again for listening.